So, no, I wouldn't say I have a passion for HR.
Welcome back to Human Resources for the People. It's a human capital revolution. Today I'm going to be talking about Lizzo's harassment and hostile work environment claims from the perspective of a human resources manager. And frankly, a lot of the things that have been getting the news don't seem nearly as important as the true facts that are very serious. So we get into it, and the dancers accuse Lizzo, who has body positivity, of calling attention to one dancer's weight gain and later berating and then firing them. The firing is really a big piece of this. So we'll talk about that in a bit. But what I find to be truly horrific is that Lizzo, the captain of Lizzo's dance team, was deriding those who had premarital sex while sharing fantasies, discussing the virginity of another of the plaintiffs, as well as quite a few other things. And it gets kind of worse when you dig into that, specifically surrounding an Amsterdam dance club. So, in the Amsterdam dance club, there was a strip club named Banana Bar, and they were allegedly routine and non-mandatory, right? But Lizzo began inviting cast members to take turns touching the nude performers and eating. I'm not even going to say the rest of it, but did a whole lot more things. And then turned her attention to Davis, who's one of the plaintiffs, and pressured Miss Davis to touch the breast of one of the nude women. And Davis declined. Then Lizzo began chanting, and then became larger and larger, and Davis became, visibly uncomfortable. Now, imagine here if you were working at Amazon and decided to attend an optional meeting after work in Seattle with Jeff Bezos, and he begins chanting, requiring you to touch a stripper's breast. This would not be acceptable anywhere in the world, specifically nowhere in the corporate world. Yet this wasn't really the highlight, as far as I can tell, of the allegations made against Lizzo, right? There was a lot of discussions about weight shaming and things of that nature, but not so much of sexual harassment and so forth. I mean, for example, the comments about surrounding Davis's weight just all stemmed around the fact that Lizzo said that Ariana Davis was, quote, less committed to her role. And that comment was described as a thinly veiled concern about Davis's weight. The quote weight shaming that has gone on surrounding this does not seem to be nearly as significant as the sexual harassment that I've already highlighted. Of course, sexual harassment is unlawful if it includes unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, or other verbal or physical harassments of a sexual nature. It doesn't have to be sexual in nature. It can be offensive remarks about a person's sex. And, of course, there's no protected classes with respect to sexual harassment. And the harasser can be either the victim's supervisor, like in the strip club, with this situation, or a coworker, or a supervisor in another area. So it's pretty broad. What the racial claims, the racial harassment claims, or hostile work environment claims, are a little bit less clear. So apparently, the former dancers asked to be compensated for their downtime at a rate of 50% of their weekly pay, and the accountant responded with 25% and scolded them for being unacceptable and disrespectful. And it notes here that the dance cast was, quote, comprised of full-figured women of color, and they were the only ones who were spoken in this manner. So it makes it sound like, at least, that the dance cast is entirely women of color. And if so, I mean, that indicates sort of preferential hiring, right? Now, Hollywood and the entertainment industry appears at this time to be allowed to make those decisions with respect to casting. They've cited in the past First Amendment rights, as well as citing customer preferences, which I think that's a really tight argument. I'm not quite sure if that holds up in court, but I don't know that it's ever been taken. And all of this would be not so bad. I mean, all of this is terrible, but really the nail in the coffin is when a Williams spoke up at a meeting because Lizzo challenged that the dancers were drinking before performances, and then when Williams stood up and said, "Hey, I didn't drink," Lizzo said, "Well, if you're not, then good for y'all." And in this situation, Lizzo's tour manager fired Williams in the hotel lobby. And the manager attributed it to budget cuts. And I think that that is really problematic because, in the suit, because no one else was fired, and budget cuts are a hard argument for one person, I think, for a spectacle of this size, at least. At least. Uh, but ultimately, that's not retaliation. At least it's not from what this article articulates. Although there could be other concerns that the lawsuit brings forward that might make these terminations of adverse action um, to be retaliation, right? But this is, in my opinion, fairly catastrophic for Lizzo because it's some very rough. It's sexual harassment. It's potentially racial. It's hostile work environment, certainly based on what we know so far, and that is unacceptable. Like I said, the media has been constantly claiming about the weight shaming, and it's that seems to be a little bit less clear to me. I think that was something that was important. It is illegal in some states to discriminate on the basis of height and weight, including New York. So if this happened in New York or a state that it's covered, those could be covered illegal discrimination. What do you think about this lawsuit? Is it just is it a true fight for the rights of the worker, or is it an angry employee that upset that she's been fired from what I would imagine, other than the work environment itself, but just the exposure to be a pretty good job? Or is it something else altogether? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye, guys.